Hi, my name is Robert Shelley, and I'm an attorney with Shelley Law. And my law firm assists resident physicians with employment contract negotiations after they're out of training, and with the resident issues as well. And so today I'm going to talk about whether a resident can appeal a program dismissal. In short, yes, they can. But they need to know the details about the process. So if you're in a residency program and there have been issues that are being dealt with by the program, normally there is a process in place to attempt to remediate whatever the problems are. And then if those remediation efforts didn't work in the eyes of the program, they could potentially dismiss the resident. And then there is going to be a code of conduct, policies and procedures, maybe the underlying facility as a process as well, where if the program is going to dismiss the physician, they will have some kind of appeal right. It can be a very short window to appeal, meaning like sometimes these programs have a 48 to 72 hour window where if the resident physician fails to appeal the decision, they lose any appeal rights and they're dismissed from the program without any ability for the resident to fight the dismissal. So let's first talk about the reasons why someone would be removed from a residency program, and then talk about the appeal process. So in my mind, there's kind of like 5 kind of standard areas where a physician would be removed from a medical residency program. My firm does licensing board defense for physicians. So we defend their licenses before the med board, or if it's a osteopath board, if they're different in the state that you're in. And usually almost every complaint comes out of 5 areas. So the first one is impairment concerns. So substance abuse issues, drugs or alcohol, prescription meds. If someone is abusing those and it's affecting their ability to provide safe patient care, that's obviously a reason why a resident could be removed from a program. Most of the time, they'll be provided the opportunity to, maybe go to inpatient rehab, an intensive outpatient treatment program, maybe AA or NA, counseling. Sometimes they'll be allowed to take a step back from the program for a period of time, and then they can restart the program and finish it out. But if they've given those options for treatment and a resident is just not willing to accept that they have a problem or go through that, that can certainly lead to a dismissal from a program. Clinical issues is a number, I guess the second reason why someone could be removed from residency, if they just can't get the concepts or are having problems, depending upon the specialty, maybe safely doing some of the procedures, that can certainly lead to a removal from the program. Most programs will always have some kind of coaching program in place. They can attempt to get the resident up to speed, but if someone just can't get the concepts or complete the residency safely, that certainly is one way that can be removed from the program. Third reason just could be behavioral problems, mental health issues. If they just can't get along with staff, with the other residents, with the attendings, with other physicians, for whatever reason, if they are a disruptive problem, that certainly can lead to the removal from a program. Dishonesty, so cheating, lying. Could be, I've had people that have just faked their hours for whatever reason, and that certainly can lead to the removal from a program. And then the last reason would be boundary violations. So obviously, if you're a provider, there are rules in place where you can't have a romantic or emotional kind of relationship with the patient that you're providing care to. But there are some times where, especially in the mental health arena, it's extraordinarily, sensitive topics are being discussed, and someone can prey upon those. And so if a provider strikes up a romantic relationship with a patient, that clearly can lead to the dismissal from a program. So those are kind of the five main reasons why someone could be let go. Now, what's the process for, any kind of appeal? Well, as I said before, if an initial problem is identified, they'll almost always attempt to work on some kind of solution with the resident. They're not just going to boot someone out without any attempt to remediate the behavior. Assuming it's not some kind of heinous incident. So let's just say that's in place. It's not working for whatever reason. The program's like, all right, we want to get rid of the resident. They will they will send a letter, and that just says you've been voted to be removed from the program, or we are going to discuss removing you from the program. If you want to appeal this decision, or maybe even address the committee who's making the decision, as I said before, you could have a very short window in order to appeal. As I said before, I've seen appeal windows as little as 72 hours for a residency program. If you fail to meet that appeal, that's it. You're going to be booted out of the program without any way of trying to get back in. So once you do appeal, they'll usually say you must appeal, via some written instrument. So you need to most likely write a letter that says, I want to exercise my appeal rights. And then you would most likely be given the opportunity to address the committee that's voting on whether to remove it from the program. Sometimes programs will offer what's called a last chance agreement, which is basically like, all right, this is your last opportunity to make things right, remediate the problems. If you violate the last chance agreement, you are gone without any appeal rights. So before you sign a last chance agreement, I certainly would suggest probably running it by an attorney in your state to go over it. There are very few people that would, I guess, specialize in that. So just try to find somebody. But a last chance agreement can be helpful, certainly, to a resident and give them the last chance. But you don't want to set yourself up for failure. And many times these last chance agreements will be written in a way that almost make it impossible for the resident to get through, without some kind of problem. You don't have the same, I guess, or at least the leverage that maybe someone who's already licensed has. You have, and just speaking specifically about where I am in Arizona, when we represent people before the medical board, there are bright line rules of what has to be followed. There'll be an investigation and a response and interviews and board meetings and potential appeals and hearings. There's a lot of kind of legal shields that we can use to defend doctors when their license is under investigation. However, when you're in a residency program, those things just simply aren't in place. The deck is stacked against the resident, maybe the best way of saying it. So you need to make certain that you're doing everything you can to save that, because as you can imagine, if you get kicked out of a residency program and you want to continue on and finish your training, it's difficult to find another program that's going to let you in. Now, if you've been kicked out of a program, you absolutely need to take proactive measures to fix whatever the problem was. Now, that's difficult for clinical issues and dishonesty. I'm going to study harder sometimes isn't enough. But, if you have clinical problems, and then you can take some ethics courses and things like that if you've been dishonest. But I can just tell you, it's very difficult to overcome in convincing another program to let you in. And even if you do that, you still have to get licensed. And so the medical board is going to know that you were kicked out of your training program for a reason. And I have had people, or at least I know of people, that they've been able to complete training, but once they apply to the medical board in the state that they want to, move to, that board has denied people for having kind of dishonesty issues during training. But with substance abuse, mental health, behavioral issues, boundary violations, those things can be kind of rehabilitated, or you can be rehabilitated from those things in many ways. And so as long as you do that prior to trying to get into a new training program, you can show them all the positive steps that you've taken to remediate the problems. And I find that most residents have a much better chance of getting into a new program if they've taken proactive steps in fixing whatever the problem was before. If you don't do anything, if you get removed from a program and then you just sit there for 3 months and then start applying, and they ask, all right, well, what have you done to fix these things? And you just say nothing. Well, you're putting yourself in a very difficult position. All right. If you have any questions about residency or transitioning into your new professional career, feel free to contact my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description. Or I would suggest looking at the other videos in this channel. Everything in this channel is geared towards resident physicians, who are completing training and then transitioning into their professional career. There's a lot of great info available. Appreciate you watching the video. Take care.